Hola, buenos días. Yo soy el Señor Morris. How are you all today? Now, did you all practice the Spanish from our last class? Did anyone teach someone else what they learned? Good. Today, we'll go over what we did last class and then introduce some new things for you to practice. But let's begin with our greeting song. Presten atención y canten conmigo. Hola, hola, buenos días, bienvenidos, ¿cómo están? Todos juntos ya estamos listos para aprender. Muy bien. We'll try to follow along and sing as much as you can. To start off with today, I'd like for all of you to watch this video that we've prepared on the alphabet in Spanish. Notice that most of the letters that you're familiar with from the English alphabet are the same as the Spanish alphabet. You'll notice that there are some extra letters in the Spanish alphabet. Okay? Also, listen carefully to how the vowels are pronounced in Spanish. After you watch this video, I'm going to see if you can write down some letters that I dictate to you. So have some paper and something to write with ready for the dictation activity. Ahora, presten atención y repitan todos.
A. América. B. Biblioteca. C. Ciudad. Che. Chico. D. 2. E. Escuela. F. Familia. G. Gobierno. H. Hospital. I. Iberia. J. Juego. K. Kilo. L. Libro. Y. Llama. M. México. N. 9. Ñ. Ñoclo. O. Oficina. P. Policía. Q. 15. R. Restaurante. R. Correos. S. 7. T. Tío. U. 1. B. 20. W. Washington. X. Xilófono. Y. Yo. Z. Zoológico.
Muy bien. Now, I'd like for you all to take out a piece of scratch paper or your Spanish notebook and something to write with to see if you can recognize and write down these letters from the Spanish alphabet. ¿Listos? Here's your first one. Can you write down the letter M? M. Can you write that down? Did you write down la M? That's it right there. La M. Let's try another one. How about la B? B. Think about that. Can you recognize it? Go ahead and write it down. Did you write down la B? B. That's almost like English, isn't it? How about this letter? La A. That one should be pretty easy to recognize. Ah. Did you write down the ah, that one? Let's try another one. This one should be pretty easy for you. How about la o? La o. Go ahead and write that down. Did you write down this one? La o. There it is. La o. And that's the shape that my mouth forms when I say the word. Here's another one. It's kind of tricky. La R. La R. Now, this isn't one that we have in our alphabet in English. La R. Did you write down this? La R. There it is. You see, this is the double R, and this is the one where you roll your tongue. R. Okay? Muy bien. Now, we'll be doing that type of activity from time to time, so you may want to practice your Spanish alphabet with your classmates, and always have your Spanish notebook or some scratch paper ready. Tell you what, let's begin today with a review of what we talked about last time, and then we'll learn some new stuff, okay? Now, who remembers what we talked about last lesson? Do you remember what we talked about? Well, what was the first sentence that we talked about on our last lesson?
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Hola, ¿cómo estás? And then I say, estoy bien. Right? Okay. Well, I'd like all of you to practice too, so repitan todos.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Okay. And I answer, estoy bien. Repitan. Or, of course, remember that you can also answer by saying, estoy más o menos, if you're not really feeling very well, or you can even say, estoy mal, if you're feeling really bad. But I hope that you are all bien. Right now, I'd like you all to watch this. It's something new, and I want to see if you can figure out what we're talking about, okay? What's that new sentence that you have for me?
Hola, ¿cómo te llamas?
Hola, ¿cómo te llamas? I would answer like this. I would say, me llamo Roberto Morris. And then what would you say?
Mucho gusto.
Oh, and I would answer you by saying, el gusto es mío. Yeah. Now, can anyone guess what it was that my friend here was asking me? That's right. He was asking me what my name was, and I told him what my name was. And then he said, oh, it's nice to meet you. And I said, oh, the pleasure is mine. Well, let's say it all together now. Repitan todos.
Hola, ¿cómo te llamas?
Now, when you answer with your name. Me llamo, and then you say your name. And then when you meet someone, you say,
Mucho gusto.
Repitan todos. And if someone says that to you, you shake their hand and you say, el gusto es mío. Repitan. Muy bien, gracias. Thank you for helping me out today. You're doing a good job in your Spanish. Now, one of the things that I'd like you to try to do is to choose a name in Spanish. And teachers, if you look in the teacher's guide, you'll find a page that has a bunch of Spanish names in it. You can look through there and see if your name has a similar name in Spanish that you can use, or if your name isn't in there, you can just choose a name that you like all by yourself. Okay? Now, once you all get names chosen, you can play a game called Como Te Llamas. And all you need is a bunch of 3x5 cards. Teachers write all of the students' names on the cards and then pass the cards out, making sure that nobody gets their own name. Okay, once everybody has a card, they all stand up and walk around and ask each other in Spanish, ¿Cómo te llamas? And they have to answer, Me llamo, and they use the name that's on the card. People keep going around until they find out who has their name on the card. Okay, that's a good way to practice that. Now, you all remember that I told you how to ask someone how they're doing, I would told you to say, ¿Cómo estás? Right? ¿Cómo estás? Well, I'd like to tell you another way to say that to people like your teacher or your principal or somebody, right? You wouldn't say, how are you doing to a teacher, but you might say that to a friend of yours or a brother or sister. Well, in Spanish, just like in English, it's important to address people with respect. So for politeness, instead of saying, ¿Cómo estás? We say, ¿Cómo está usted? ¿Cómo está usted? And let's look at these two sentences. Do you see? ¿Cómo estás? You see that? Well, that one ends with the letter S, but down here on the bottom, ¿Cómo está? There's no S, and then the word usted. That's a polite way to talk to someone and to ask them how they're doing, okay? Now, who do you think that you might say this to? Teachers, if you want to put me on hold and talk about it in class, who should you show respect to? That's a good idea. I'm sure you all came up with some good answers. To help us remember, we have a song, and I'd like you to sing it with me now, if you can. It goes like this. To my friends I say, ¿Cómo estás? To an adult I say, ¿Cómo está usted? To those I know well and consider close, I say words that end with an S. To my brother I say, ¿Cómo estás? To my teacher I say, ¿Cómo está usted? To show respect and to be polite, I always say usted. Muy bien. Now, in addition to using special words with people we respect, there are some words that we use with everyone to be polite, right? For example, if you want someone to give you something or to do something for you, what do you say? That's right, you say please. If you step on someone's foot, what do you say? Hopefully you say I'm sorry. Well, Spanish-speaking people are generally very polite, and they have a number of words that they use, okay? Let's look at some of them right now. If you want someone to do you a favor or to give you something, in Spanish you'll say, por favor. Repitan todos. Por favor. Have you ever heard that before? Yeah, you might have. If someone does something nice for you or gives you something, what do you say in English? You say, thank you. Well, in Spanish we say, gracias. Repitan todos. Gracias. That's right. And in English, if someone says, thank you to you, what do you say to them? You say, you're welcome. In Spanish, we say, de nada. De nada. Repitan todos. Now, if someone's going to play a sport or take a test, sometimes we tell them something in English. What do we tell them? We say, good luck. Well, in Spanish, we tell them this. We say, buena suerte. Buena suerte. Repitan todos. Buena suerte. And if someone is eating, we say, oh, I hope we enjoy your food. Hope you enjoy your food. In Spanish, we say this. We say, buen provecho. Buen provecho. Okay. Now, if we do something to someone on accident, we can say one of two things. We can say, pardon me, or I'm sorry, right? Pardon me in Spanish is perdón, okay? Or I'm sorry, if you wanted to say that, you would say, lo siento. That's right. Well, I hope that you wrote all of those things in your Spanish notebooks. Why don't you all review quickly the things that we've just talked about? Presten atención y repitan todos. Saludos. Buenos días. Buenas tardes. Buenas noches. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Estoy bien, gracias. ¿Y usted? Estoy bien, gracias. Adiós. Hasta luego. ¿Cómo te llamas? Me llamo Roberto. Mucho gusto. El gusto es mío. Por favor. Gracias. De nada.
Buena suerte.
Buen provecho.
Perdón. Lo siento.
Muy bien. And I think I even heard some of you out there repeating along. That's great. Tell you what, now let's look at the activity sheet for today's lesson. It's called ¿Qué dices? Or what do you say? Well, let's go ahead and start up here where it says nombre. Now remember, I hope you guys get a chance to pick a Spanish name. Voy a escribir mi nombre, Roberto. And here are the things that we talked about. Por favor, gracias, de nada, buen provecho, buena suerte, perdón, or lo siento. The directions say, select one of the phrases from above to answer the following questions. Let's see, the first one says, what do you say if your best friend is going to race in a track meet at school? If your best friend is going to race at a track meet at school, okay, you'd probably say what? Buena suerte. So what I'd like you to do is write down the phrase here, buena suerte. There you go. And that'll give you another chance. Now there are a few more questions down there at the bottom that you can go ahead and finish up whenever your teacher gives you time, whether it's right after class or later in the day or maybe taking it home and working on it. Well, that's all that we have time for today. Next class, we'll start to look at numbers in Spanish in the calendar. Let's end today's lesson by singing the same song that we sang last time called Cielito Lindo. And this may be familiar to you because it's a pretty famous song. Canten conmigo. De la Sierra Morena, cielito lindo, vienen bajando un par de ojitos negros, cielito lindo de contrabando. Sing with me now. Ay, 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 ay. Canta y no llores, porque cantando se alegran, cielito lindo, los corazones. Keep practicing your Spanish. Adios.